Hi guys, Dennis here again. So today's video and the newsletter is going to be about your personal backstory. Now, the conversation in the first two newsletters, if you haven't seen already, please go and have a look. The first one was about the general idea of why great storytelling helps your business achieve success. Because storytelling is really what it's all about. It's about getting the message across to your clients and your staff and everything else. So, and the second video was about a one-take video, getting these things done fast, good, but not perfect. But it was really about the mechanics of making sure that you were able to produce your content in a time-efficient manner. Now, this video and this newsletter is about the sharing of your backstory. It's a level of vulnerability that a lot of people have difficulty with. I think we all do. But it's important because knowing you as a person behind your business certainly gives people a much better connection with you personally and helps them to understand how you've come about doing what you're doing and achieving what you've achieved, or in some cases not achieving what you haven't achieved. So let me give you an example. What I'm going to do today is share with you my story. Now, I'm Australian, in case I haven't said that before or you haven't caught up with that. Living in Malaysia for the last 15 years, so I'm now coming on to 57, I think. That's about right. So, that's a fair chunk of life gone past. And, okay, here he is telling us all about videos and content and back storytelling, whatever. What's he done? What's his story? How's he got to where he is, and has he achieved much, or what really? Who is this guy? Okay, so I don't know if where you are in the world, this is a common saying. At the end of high school in Australia, we have quite often what's called a gap year, which means that you take a year off to decide, what sort of things you want to do before you go to university. Now, at 56 and having left high school at 18, I'm now on my, if my calculations stand me correct, on my 38th gap year. Never did decide what university course I should do, so didn't go. So what have I done since the age of 18? Okay, so I was, here I am, a young fella, not quite sure what he's going to do with himself in sunny Queensland of Australia. What am I going to do? So my cousin was in Victoria. He was heading across to the wild west of Western Australia, and I thought, that's pretty cool. I'll join him. I had done a bit of a round of the coal mines and things in northern Queensland just to sort of see whether there was this high-paying work that was meant to be on tap for a young, smart fellow like myself, which it wasn't at the time. So off I traipsed down to Victoria to catch up with the cousin and on our magical, wonderful journey we were going to have. Got down there and found that he was short of cash, so he wasn't going to Western Australia. Now what am I going to do? My family, if you like, grandparent and uncle and so forth, had been in the railways in Melbourne for many years, and they said, here's a thing for a young fellow like yourself, join the railways. Okay, I said, no problem. So I went along and joined the railways as a lad station porter, cleaning the platform, selling tickets, whatever. Now I was there for about 10 years, and that kind of set the scene, I guess, for my life story and my career and business story. In the time that I was there, in the 10 years, I think I had about 27 jobs. I went from lad porter to station assistant to signalman and found myself doing a whole range of things, including station master and industrial relations officer and manager. So, it was very rare that I had a job even within the confines of the railway system for more than 6 months. And as I said, that kind of set the scene for the rest of my life. I've got very bored with things very quickly, but always taken on new challenges purely, I think, out of boredom. I find I catch up with things fairly quickly, and once I've got them in place, then it's time to move on to something else. Now that leads to an interesting life, but not necessarily a successful life as life is usually measured. I was involved with the industrial relations team at the railways in around about, I think it was 82, 92, something, where we were doing a fairly large-scale voluntary redundancy program. The package we negotiated was so good, I was the first one with my hand up, and out the door I went. And I took those skills back to Queensland, and I was doing consulting. Here I am in a new political economic environment of collective bargaining and so forth, and I had certain skills and experience with that, so I did some consulting in that regard. Then I joined various other organisations as industrial relations manager, just to kind of leverage off that experience. Then moved back down to Victoria with the then family, wife and four fairly young kids still. Set up a distribution company. We were doing various products that we were distributing around the place. Bought into a female gym, a range of other things. And you'll notice a trend through this. And one of my good friends said, "You're a successful drifter, Dennis. You always have things to do, and you always manage to make things work, but you do drift from place to place and job to job and business to business and so forth." Which, in terms of the type of business and projects that we're getting involved with now, can be seen as a negative. Is this guy actually going to stick around? So it's a fair comment too. So anyway, from there, a range of other things that we did, and it was always kind of building on the previous, if you know what I mean. So we'd learn about the industrial relations expertise, and we took that to consulting. From that, we started to work with companies, or I started to work with companies to help them understand the new environment, and then they had problems in other areas, a lot of it related to business development and so forth. So, I was helping them develop sales programs and whatever. Now that kind of led to, okay, and I'm a systems guy, so if you build something once, can we build it again? Can we replicate it? Can we expand it and so forth? And that leads to thinking about licensing, franchising, duplication, replication and so forth. So we took that knowledge and built a company called Sales Champions in Australia. We had about 20 coaches around Australia who were supporting salespeople and business people in their sales skills primarily, but not just sales, business development, marketing and a whole range of other things. Now, we did that for about 5 years with my then partner, a fantastic partner she was too, with a lot of skills that I didn't have. And one of the things that I've noticed in my life is that I don't know whether I attract them or I find them or whatever, but I recognise where my strengths are and I recognise where my weaknesses are, and I always manage to find the people who fill the gaps. So her skills were in coaching. I mean, this was a sales coaching business. You would think that I would have some skills in that, but I'm not a good coach. I'm a very directive person. I would rather tell you what to do, if you like, than help you find your own way through it, which is what a coach is meant to do. So she added that intangible value to the whole business and the whole process. I could put the systems together and the platforms and everything else, and I could again tell the story to attract other coaches around Australia, and we ended up with about 20 coaches that we're doing a fair bit of business. Now, one of the companies that we were going to do business with was an aerospace company based in Brisbane, and they said, we'd like to do some of the things that you're talking to us about, but we just lost our Asian rep. Now, I'd never been to Asia at that point. This was back in the time when budget airlines, I think you may not know, but AirAsia out here is kind of the leading budget airline, and certainly was the first one. They'd only just started. So prior to that, air tickets were enormous cost, and here I am with 4 kids and wife, and you need to really put a lot of money aside just to go on an air flight. So they said we'd just lost our Asian rep. And I said, well, we're 5 years into the sales coaching business, it must be time to move on. So I took the job as their Asian rep, and sold the business to my partner and handed it over and said, here you are. And then so I spent the next few years, and it sort of got me into Asia, which is where I am now. I'm based in Malaysia and been here for the last 13 years. In Asia since 2007, generally speaking, both in and out, fly in, fly out, as well as living up here. So yeah, we were doing parts support for small aircraft in the region, which was a lovely time. Travel around, see everything. From my perspective, it was a job made in heaven, because I was really just flitting about, having a good time, and selling various things to various people as I went along. We then got involved with large-scale projects, converting 747 passenger planes into freight aircraft, cargo aircraft in Jakarta. So I was in Jakarta for a couple of years doing that, which was again, an interesting time, and again sort of fell into my strengths, because you can imagine, if you're doing a conversion of large aircraft from one type to another, and doing what's called a C check as well, which is a fairly heavy, the heaviest maintenance check. There's a lot of systems work involved in that, so it was very useful from my perspective. I put systems in place to manage procurement and whatever else. So again, did that for a couple of years, and then moved to Malaysia, did a couple more planes over in Malaysia, and then said, well, it must be time to move on again. Could have stayed, could have making very good money, could have just carried on as we were. But, jump ship is my tendency. It was time to just, try something else. So we set up what was the first of two companies here in Malaysia. The first one was called Green Business JV Marketing. Now, it was a bit of a catch-all. What do we do? Well, we help green companies. What does that mean? If you sell a bamboo shirt, which is a green product, then we'll help you to market it and help you sort of structure how you're going about your business. We gravitated towards green building products, and that's kind of been a theme since about 2013. So even though there's been different iterations of what I did, it kind of gravitated around buildings, construction, and eco products and ecosystems and things, solar power systems, green insulation, and a range of other things. So actually what we did in 2016 on behalf of a friend and client was build the first tiny home, off-grid tiny home in Malaysia. Now, that was an interesting process again, because now we're actually building something that is a combination of all of these components that we'd been helping to support. So that was a good learning process. From there, we set up the current company, MCM Greenman Group, which is kind of the core company at the moment. In conjunction with my business partner, who wanted to take what we'd learnt from the tiny home build and do, modular type buildings, either flat pack or volumetric, and do it in such a way that it was both fast and high quality and affordable. Now, again, a learning experience, 2016 through 2019. We built a number of modules. We learned about what materials work, don't work, whatever else. We learnt more about the market in Malaysia, because that was the target market at the time. We found the industry wasn't ready for that for various reasons. Cheap labour that they had from foreign workers, and they understood concrete and brick, and didn't really see the need to change at that point. That's kind of changed now for a number of reasons. Cheap foreign labour is no longer as cheap as it was. Material costs have gone up. So the carry cost of doing buildings now is higher, so the margins are smaller. So there's a bit of a change that may come that way. But again, it's been a leverage thing. We looked at a lot of the IoT things at various points, trying to make the buildings smarter, and really try and integrate some modern thinking in the way that we went about business. Now then, in 2019, we had a number of projects that were meant to kick off from the modular building side that didn't happen. And I happened to run across a client that I've been working with for the last 3 years, managing a property in Malaysia, which I've now finished, and we're moving on to the new project, which is the BuildTech Park in Indonesia. But that was an opportunity to look at property management from the perspective of an operator. So a number of things that we thought that we were going to do, we had the opportunity to put in place, put some systems in place for managing properties, which has been a very useful tool and set of knowledge, because now we're looking at the build tech park and construction projects in Indonesia, you know, I'm looking at it from the perspective of not just the builder but also the maintainer, which is a different approach because, you know, a lot of construction is all about getting the thing built, not worry too much about the life of the building after that. So, you know, this has been my story. Now, some of these things have been successful. A lot of them